Welcome back to She Can, where women lead by example. We interview women from all walks of life to hear their stories and how they got to where they are today, to share their insights, to help support and guide others. And I'm very excited today to talk to Carmel Rafaeli. Carmel, welcome to She Can. You are a serial entrepreneur. I've hardly ever seen so many CEO mentions for a single person. And you are now passionate about climate investment and sustainability. And so you are a angel investor in climate and sustainability ventures. You are a venture partner at Conduit Connect and an investor in the Conduit IES Impact Fund. You've had a very diverse career. You started in radio news production, marketing and communication in Japan, e-commerce development, the hospitality industry. Tell us a little bit more about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Stephanie. It's a pleasure to be here. I guess yes, I had a very diverse career. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I tried a bit of everything. Started more in radio and news production and then policy, but very quickly understood that my heart is in the business world and very much in the tech and innovation sector of things. So I actually started there and more or less rolled with my opportunities, paused for a second to do an MBA where I felt I needed to have a bit more of an understanding of the industry more than what I started with from my more policy work in the beginning. But then really let the tide take me. I was privileged enough to be able to do that. So post MBA, had the opportunity to invest in a fashion brand and decided to do that, managed two brands. It was not a very successful endeavor, but I learned a lot from it. And then shifted back to tech and was able to build one of the first e-commerce platforms in Israel, which was a very interesting experience. But afterwards wanted to do something different and tried a bit for a few things and went back to tech to build a hospitality tech platform for independent boutique hotels. So really the passion there started to be how to bring organizations together, how to manage data in a better way, how to enable the small SMB players in the market not to be eaten by the larger players and give them a fair chance, and how to do a much better customer service and customer experience. And that actually, within the madness of my career, has stayed a logic of how to bring people together, how to create and foster collaboration in order to create better products, better services, better innovation. And so my shift into IP was on a similar line, but looking at climate. And when I ran out of ideas, I thought the only other thing I can do is to support others that have great ideas. And that kind of shifted me to the investment side. And now I am extremely privileged to be working with wonderful founders that are building incredible companies with wonderful innovations to solve the climate crisis on a variety of levels, whether it's software or hardware, materials, robotics. I kind of really have the pleasure to work with a huge variety, always having at least one female founder, or nearly always having at least one woman founder on the team. And I aim to support them to grow their businesses and grow their climate innovation and climate solutions. And started doing the angel investing as part of that. But I do very small tickets, and it's kind of 2 meetings, 2 weeks, 2K. So very little, but what they get with my 2K is my support.
Carmel, that's exactly what is different, right? You are an advisor and a mentor and an investor. So tell us a little bit more on this process. How do you invest? In whom do you invest?
So in my investment thesis, I invest in companies that are pre-seed to A with at least one female founder holding substantial equity. I have an outlier or two there. And anyone that's doing working for a substantial positive climate solution. And so usually they all are a very specific kind of format. I have sometimes outliers, sometimes there's a deal that I just cannot pass on. But all in all, my goal is to put my money in a place where I can support a variety of innovation, a variety of approaches, and a variety of companies. So I am very open to meeting different founders that are working on very different things. I look at the team, I look
Mm.
at the idea, I look at the market and its potential to grow. But unlike venture funds, I don't necessarily need them to become a 10x. Many times, a company that can become a sustainable business that will be running continuously and providing dividends is just as interesting to me as a company that might be doing 100x on the money. And so I am very much pushed both by the impact, the actual climate impact that these companies can create, as well as the hope for financial returns. But it is a place to say that investing is always a thought exercise of what I'm going as an angel, I will lose all my money. And so we do not invest what we cannot afford to lose.
Yeah. Carmel, so tell us a little bit more. Is there anything you've mentioned a bit the areas you're investing in, but do you have a focus on particular areas within the climate
Yeah. So
space?
no,
No.
no, and that's what I love because I get to work with people that are doing such a variety of different things. I work with a wonderful company that is creating cotton replacement fabrics from agricultural waste, starting with banana tree waste. I've invested in companies that are doing repair and maintenance in the fashion industry and kind of have the ability to operate for different brands, they're matching with makers all around the world. I've invested in a software robotics company that is doing a monitoring of seaweed farms, utilizing the technology to enable seaweed farmers to grow at much larger areas
Mm.
with much less resources, and at the same time utilizing carbon sequestering tools, credits. I invested in companies that have done software for enterprises in order for them to operationalize better within their climate targets. And there are many, many others, both in the materials and hardware and software. So really, for me, it's about the vision that the founders have and my ability to see what their potential growth route will be.
Carmel, so tell us a little bit more. You must have acquired an enormous amount of qualities along the way, doing different things. What are the qualities that you acquired that really serve you now in what you do now?
Ooh, I don't know if I have that many qualities, but I think curiosity is the first. And that is why I invest in such a wide variety because I enjoy learning
Mm.
such different industries all the time. And that is kind of why I've always done so many different things because my passion is learning something new and trying to solve a new problem. So I'm definitely a problem solver. I also am not bad with an Excel sheet, and I have an understanding of how to break down a problem in order to look for a solution. And I think that is where my mentoring and advising comes to a lot. Um, and maybe I have learned to feel more comfortable with my risk appetite.
Carmel, so exactly where does that is that how do you operate? Is it a gut instinct thing? Is it a mixture of data, gut instinct? It's very different to invest at such an early stage, and you're investing in basically the person and a vision. And so tell us a little bit more about that process. How what is it like when you know I gotta be part of this?
So I think my investments are divided into three. One, and I'll be very honest, are FOMO. I don't understand enough, but there's so much talk about it that in the community around me that I just decided to jump into the water. Again, my tickets are very small, so my strategy is diversification.
Mm.
And it's easier for me to take risk because I do such small tickets. Whereas if I were doing 20K instead of doing 20 deals, I probably would be doing two or three, and then I would have to be much more calculated. So this gives me flexibility in the way I see it. So one is that it's a very small bucket, but it does exist. The second are things that I don't know to explain it. The gut makes sense to me. I don't understand it, not really, but if it's the founder, the strategy, the product, how far they've come so far. Some founders, you just know that it doesn't matter where they'll go, they will figure it out at the end. Sometimes it's the innovation that captures you. And if I have a gut feeling, but I don't know to substantiate it, I will ask help from fellow angels around me or fellow investors around me and try to hear their impressions, talk to existing investors, and try to kind of decide from that perspective what is the best step for me. And the last are probably most of my deals. And those are ones that, as I said, I do 2 meetings, 2 weeks, 2K, but usually I would know in the first 15 minutes that this is a founder I want the opportunity to work with. And yes, I need to make sure that the numbers make sense, that they know how to strategize from a financial perspective, that there is a market, that the competition isn't doing exactly the same thing. All of that comes afterwards, but within 15 minutes, I'll more or less know if I want to jump in or not.
Carmel, and tell us a little bit about the dynamics. You come in very early with, small amounts of money. What is it like being a small investor on a cap table? How does it work? You have a lot of investments. How can you be an advisor and mentor to so many companies? And tell us a little bit about the dynamic of being such an early stage investor operating with comparatively smaller amounts of money.
So I think it really differs based on personality, both of the founder and of the investor. When I enter through SPVs, so through syndicates, very rarely will I have a relationship with the founder. I will get the
Mm,
updates.
mm,
Sometimes they have asks there, and if I can help, I will. When I do my own direct investing, not everybody needs my help. Not always my help is good. It's not something that is required to come hand in hand. And it's mostly based on relationship. So all of the founders in my portfolio, as well as most of the founders that I meet and do office hours with, know that I am here to help. And so with some, I have regular monthly catch-ups and we discuss issues and I help. With others, it's more sporadic and they'll reach out whenever they'll need. I also founded the table 7 months ago with another wonderful angel investor named Julie Brain. And this is a community where we are actually working with the investors side, with syndicate leads, family offices, CVCs, and funds mostly, to share co-investment opportunities within a similar investment thesis. So pre-seed to A, at least one female founder holding substantial equity doing anything climate. And this is a way for us to also hear much more what the investors are thinking. Investors bring deals they're actively investing in, but there's still room for more investors, and they start collaborating and co-sharing in this way. And so I spend a lot of time talking to founders from a much wider variety to see how I can help them, whether a fund already brought them forward or whether they want to be brought to the table, but we need to find that first ticket for them. And sometimes it's not an angel ticket that will do it.
Carmel, I love the concept of the table because I think then you bring so many different opinions. You're pooling sources, and it sounds amazing. Tell us a little bit more what the changes are in the investing community in regards to the gender gap that still exists. You're doing a lot of work there by saying one of the founders has to be a woman. So that's an incredible approach. How do you feel this community is changing?
So I'm relatively new to the community, so I don't really have a long-term perspective. I think there's more awareness today that it's much more talked about that women are underfunded. Um, Unfortunately, at the same time that it's talked about more, we don't really see the needle moving. Some sporadic numbers might show that we're going from 1% to 6%, or for mixed teams from 10% to 18%. But I've seen very few. Usually we're sticking to the 2%, 10%, and it's very hard. It's also a hard in time to fundraise. Everybody's taking longer. The funds take longer to raise their own rounds. The companies take longer to raise their own rounds in climate specifically. I think part of what we need to see to move the needle is more women investing, both within angels, but also I think in the UK we have 14% of angels are women. I'm not sure about the stats, if I remember correctly, but we need to see more women holding decision and investment positions within funds, and there are amazing organizations that are working on that as well. For climate, we also need to see more liquidity events coming through. So if we don't have money in the ecosystem to start rolling it over, it's going to become even harder and harder.
Carmel, so what has been one really exciting venture that you are super excited about for 2025?
That's like asking me which is my favorite child.
Sorry.
I think a lot of the material work is extremely exciting. So thinking or the correlation between circularity and materials, utilizing waste in order to find solutions is one of the stronger trends that I believe will really bring substantial amounts of solutions, and sometimes are overlooked because it's not necessarily the same carbon mitigation that we see with other companies. Yeah, I think that's the one that's also closest to my heart.
Carmel, as a serial entrepreneur, what top tips would you have for women entrepreneurs?
Know your numbers. It's really important for us to come with an understanding of how this business is working. What is the money in? What is the money out? How are we building out? Unfortunately, too many women shy away from it. Even if they excel in it, they shy away from being the person that controls it. A founder needs to control their cash flow. Cash is queen. You have to know to manage it, and you have to know how to forecast it as best as possible. Um, and be bold. Be bold. Well, I think part of the reason women are raising less is that we think that we are perceived arrogant if we put the boldness out there. And that is true at times, but we need to be bold. The chances of getting investment from an investor when you have a huge vision is much greater than if you're doing something incremental.
Carmel, what do you feel are your biggest lessons now being on the other side of the table and being an investor and advisor?
Listen to your heart. Um, Too many times I thought that I am too young, not enough experience, that I just went and listened to other people that were smarter, wiser, but they weren't, and my instincts were right. So listen to your heart, especially when you're doing something yourself, you know your business. So be true to yourself. Um, I think that's for me is kind of the biggest one. I think the other one is that investors are going through the same processes that founders are going through, but in different cycles and on different levels. Um, so know to listen to them, but also know to stand your ground and have this interesting back and forth. Don't be defensive. Listen to feedback. It's important to grow out of feedback, but also don't let anyone push you to something that is not who you are or what you want for your company.
So, what would you say are the challenges you encounter and how do you reframe them?
So there's a research from coming out of Harvard. Probably somebody already has spoken about this in the past, but on the fact that investors, men and women, tend to look and just talk to men about success and growth and opportunity, and talk to women about risk and failure. And I think one of the important things to learn to do in general is to listen to the question, but reframe it to what is important for you.
Mm.
And that's again to, yes, be attentive, yes, have a conversation, but not be pushed into a specific box. And I think that is kind of one of the main things that we need to learn to do very gently, but be there. And also, again, just be bold. Don't be ashamed to say how big your dream is.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. So, what are you most proud of to date?
Not giving up. I always try to find something new to grow and to find different ways to bring people together. I am very proud of the work Julie and I are doing at the table. I think we have a true opportunity to change the needle in how we invest in climate in general, and first and foremost in women in climate. And I look forward to our path together to see how we grow it into a true collaborative tool to get more money into more women so that they can build faster, better, bolder than they do today.
Carmel, so talk to us about your plans and goals with the table. Tell us a bit more about that.
So our goal for this year is to start raising a foundation that will do non-dilutive recoverable grants that will match the tickets that our community members are doing into these companies. So we will be able to provide philanthropic capital as catalytic capital on the ground levels, enabling the same kind of runway that men have in mixed teams and women-led teams, and then hopefully seeing much more innovation come through. So 2025, 2026 is about building this the table foundation and enabling much more of the capital flow into women-led and co-led climate ventures.
Carmel, and what would you like our listeners to take away from your story?
I acknowledge that I am extremely privileged to be in the position that I am, but I think not shying away from challenges and figuring out what makes you happy. So I reinvented myself at 40. I reinvented myself at 30. I think it is a lot of time we look at failure and let it cripple us. And most of the time, failure builds us to our next achievement. So today, after a long process, I bear my scars with pride, and I let it drive me forward. And I think that resilience is what founders need, and it's what helps change the world.
Carmel, I think this is a perfect finish to this conversation, and I'm so excited you talked about that. I'm still waiting for someone to come forward to talk about their failure in a big way and make that the whole conversation, because we all know that we learn so much more from failure than we do from success. And there's, luminaries around the world that talk about it, but we need a real story around that to go into the detail. So I'm very excited that you mentioned that. And thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.